Good morning. It's good to be with you again as we continue to look at our series on what does it mean to be Presbyterian. Today we're going to move into a discussion about what we call the sacraments. And in our tradition we have two sacraments, the Lord's Supper and infant and baptism. Typically infant baptism. Both of these we're going to discuss in a little more detail in the coming days. But just kind of a general overview of the sacraments today. And one of the first things that we need to recognize is that we, in the Reformed tradition, Presbyterian tradition, we only recognize two sacraments. That is as opposed to the Roman Catholic tradition, in which there are actually seven sacraments. I can't remember all seven. The one that I do remember is the sacrament of marriage. That's just another one. We certainly believe in marriage. We certainly agree that it is a wonderful thing, but it is not what we term a sacrament. So when we're talking about sacraments, basically what we are discussing there in the Reformed tradition are the fact that these two things, the Lord's Supper and and I'm saying infant baptism, just baptism. But we're going to look at infant baptism a little bit later. But the Lord's Supper and baptism, we call them the sacraments because they are signs and seals of what we believe. They're visible representations, but they're more than just a representation. They're more than just symbolic. We believe that Christ is spiritually present in these sacraments, and so therefore they are very, very important. Question 66 of the Westminster Shorter Catechism says this, and I'm going to read it. It says, the question is, what are the sacraments? And so the answer is, the sacraments are visible holy signs and seals appointed of God for this end, that by the use thereof he may the more fully declare and seal to us the promise of the gospel, namely that of free grace. He grants us the forgiveness of sins and everlasting life for the sake of the one sacrifice of Christ accomplished on the cross. So again, these sacraments, these things that we do in church once a month in our particular church here at Hope with the Lord's Supper, and then whenever we have a baptism, whether it's an infant or an adult or a child who's professing belief, whatever it happens to be, we do a baptism service. But we believe that they point to the cross. That's their purpose. Their purpose is to point us to the work of our Lord Jesus Christ. And so as we look at this, we have to understand that they are what we call signs and seals. Now, when we say sign, what do we mean by that? Basically, it is a representation of what Christ has accomplished. And of course, if you look at the elements within the Lord's Supper, you certainly see that. We say, and again, we're going to discuss this way further in the next couple of lessons, but that the bread and the wine are representational. But they're signs of the sacrifice that Jesus did. The sign of baptism is the water cleansing us, and so they are signs. They are pointing us to what the work of Jesus Christ is. And by the way, none of this is by magic. None of this is just so beyond the mystery, so beyond our understanding that it's just a mystery that we could never possibly understand. I mean, Jesus was pretty clear what these things were meant to be. But the other aspect is that it's a seal. Now, sign, we can probably get, oh yeah, I see, the bread is representational of his body, the wine is representation of his blood. We could probably get that idea. The seal may not be something that we're very familiar with. And that's because we don't really live in a day where we have necessarily seals on official documents or whatever else. I mean, we may have some things here or there. Of course, we got notary signatures and things like that. But the seal, was an important important thing for an official document coming, especially from one leader to either the people or maybe to another leader. Maybe it's a peace treaty or whatever else. But the seal, and if you've ever seen the old movies where they like take wax and they melt it and put it on the piece of paper, and then there's like a ring, and then they put the imprint in, and it was sealed. It was not supposed to be open until it was seen by whoever it was actually meant to receive whatever document it happened to be. But that seal, it was an important aspect. And so the seal to us is that it testifies to the truth of what's already been done by somebody else. You see, let's take a seal. Let's think about it. That there's this agreement being made by two kings, and one king sends an agreement of a peace treaty that he's willing to make with this other person, and so he puts that seal on that document and sends it. He's already made the promise by writing it in that document, and now it's sealed. It's being sent to that other person. It's a truth that's already in existence, but it points to it. It's a promise to us. This seal, this seal that we talk about, it's a promise that God is going to reveal His grace and His truth and His mercy and love and justice. All of these things are sealed within these two sacraments that we're going to discuss a little bit more. Just going to read regarding the sacrament of baptism. Again, we'll talk more later. But the Heidelberg Catechism. By the way, Heidelberg Catechism is not like an official. It's not one of the governing doctrines within our denomination. We of course go with the Westminster Confession on that one. But the Heidelberg Catechism, if you really want to enjoy something for your devotional time, I highly recommend the Heidelberg Catechism. It's very, very pastoral in the way that it's written. But anyway, here's just, it talks, the Heidelberg Catechism in question number 69 talks about the seal of baptism like this, and it's just beautiful. How is it signified and sealed to you in the holy baptism that you have part in the one sacrifice of Christ on the cross? And the answer is this: thus, that Christ instituted this outward washing with water, and joined therewith the promise that I am washed with His blood and Spirit from the pollution of my soul, that is, from all my sins, as certainly as I am washed outwardly with water, whereby commonly the filthiness of the body is taken away. These sacraments, these two, the Lord's Supper and baptism, they are there to make the gospel visible. Because God is a God of an all-encompassing God. He touches, He reveals Himself in all of life and in all of our senses. It just points to the beauty and majesty and wonderfulness of God. And it's one of the things that I hope that we can explore a little bit more in these next few days as we talk about this. Sacraments, these signs and seals, are something for us to behold and wonder at and think about, and not just kind of treat it as, oh, that's what we do on the first Sunday of every month, or that's what we do when we have the birth of a child or whatever else. These are important. These are things for us to think about. And so with that, I'll leave you, and we'll again be talking more about these sacraments in the next few episodes of this discussion on what it means to be a Presbyterian. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.